And we got delivered to Mark Boyer's desk. We walked in the restaurant.
Rock and roll.
So, yeah, we were always joking. Yes.
We ready to go, folks?
Yes, sir.
Whatever you say, Chairman. I better put my glasses back on. Cataract surgery and all that. Well, that doesn't work. Good evening. I call the September 19, 2023 meeting of the Sarpy County Planning Commission to order. We will do roll call. Ms. Jack, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Giff,
Here.
Ackley, Dembinski,
Here.
Huddleston,
Here.
Igardner, Bernock,
Here.
Preston,
Here.
Korth, Cheney, Whitfield,
Here.
Weiss.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I invite you to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a public meeting subject to the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. A current copy of the law is located on the north wall of this room. Feel free to review the law before making any comments. I would like to do an introduction of the planning staff and legal counsel. Jason Kubicek, planner; Don Simon, planning director; Kelly Jack, planning coordinator; Nicole Spitzenberger, deputy county attorney.
Chairman, we have Kayla Hathcote in place.
I'm not quite as cool as Nicole. Kayla has to go to the county.
Close, but sorry about that. Yeah.
No problem, and welcome. The first order of business is to approve or edit the minutes for the prior meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes for August 15, 2023.
So moved. Second, Preston.
Ron, are you able to vote? There we go.
Wasn't popping up.
That's okay. We've got 6 votes for. It's Whitfield, Huddleston, Giff, Bernock, Preston, Weiss. There it is. Dembinski is abstaining. Motion carried.
Okay, let's move on to the public hearing portion of the meeting. Each agenda item will adhere to the following format as detailed in the Sarpy County Planning Commission bylaws. The planning staff will introduce and briefly explain the agenda item. The applicant or the applicant's representative will be given 5 minutes to provide information about the project to the commission. After the applicant's presentation, I'll open the floor to public comment. Please keep your comments relevant to the agenda item, and to keep the meeting moving, please avoid repeating what others have said. Okay, we'll start with the regular agenda for the public hearing, and the first item on the agenda tonight is the renewal of a special permit in the AGD Agricultural Department District to allow rental and sales of recreational vehicles, RVs, at 18806 K Park Road, legally described as Lot 1, Mintkins Edition, as surveyed, platted, and recorded in Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located at the northwest of 168th and K Park.
Good evening, commissioners. Excuse my fashion statement here. Notice of tonight's public hearing for the following request was posted by sign at the subject property. Letters were sent to property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, and also published in a newspaper circulation within the Sarpy County jurisdiction. James Mowinkle is requesting approval to renew his special use permit, which allows the operation of a business for the sales and rental of vacation and travel trailers. The subject property is around 9.5 acres in size, and it's south of I-80, right around 192nd and Cape Hart Road. The property has had 2 previous special use permits for this purpose over the past 15 years. The majority of the operation will remain the same. A small office is proposed in one of the grain bins on site, which will be a part of this occupation here, this special use permit, I mean. Maximum of 20 RVs will be permitted on site. Hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. No signage is to be added to the property. Advertisements of the business must not mention the subject property. Comments received from the city of Gretna and from Sarpy Public Works. The comments from Gretna is requesting that the 10-year limit be added onto the special use permit, and the current special use permit does have that. Sarpy Public Works has indicated that, I'll go back real quick to that 10-year limit. The applicant has requested to remove that 10-year limit and have no limit. As I mentioned, this site is close to the I-80, and Public Works' comments were that this could be a potential future location of a new interchange for I-80. Thus, the property could be purchased for that purpose. So with that, staff recommends approval of the special use permit for James Mowinkle to be located on Lot 1, Meekins Addition, to allow a vacation and travel trailer sales and rental use as described in their business plan and application, subject to a maximum of 20 recreational vehicles or trailers on a site at any given time. Staff further recommends, however, that the term of the special use permit be approved for a period of 10 years based on comments received from the city of Gretna. Staff makes this recommendation as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and complies with the requirements of the Sarpy County zoning regulations. Please let me know if you have any questions about this application.
Are there any proponents for this motion? Opponents? I'll open the floor to the commission. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Curious, 2 questions. I remember this from the last time. Did it expire? Did we have I don't remember having a 10-year on it before, did we?
There was a 10-year. It did expire. It was February of this year.
Okay.
We've allowed them to continue while we're working on getting this renewed here. But we did catch it a little late. And so that's...
And then the new 10-year was not in the cards at first, but we added it. We as Sarpy County added it after Gretna said something.
The applicant requested on the application to remove that, and Gretna made comments late, just later in the process. And so with their comments, we added the 10-year back in, as this is their future growth area. And it's kind of a weird carve out. I think I should show here. I don't know if the 2 different jurisdictions, but there's a small area. Yeah, it doesn't really show here, but there's a small area where there's Gretna future growth area and Papillion future growth area, kind of close to it, or the ETJs are really close, but this is Gretna's future growth area. And I believe with the interchange, this will, the future land use for them will likely be what it is for us, like flex space. So I think that's their motivation for keeping the 10-year, as far as making sure that property can go to the future land use. Now, no design has been done on the interchange, so to know how much property will be taken and that sort of thing, we don't know that yet.
I'll just go ahead and say it. My opinion is we get rid of the 10-year, and if Gretna takes it, they've got a non-conforming use they can deal with when they get there. And I remember one of those buildings was put up specifically for this, to house, I mean, Mr. Mowinkle's got a considerable investment here. I can see why he wants that removed if he wants to keep going with it. So that's my opinion.
I have a comment on that. With regards to that, I guess I disagree with Doug. You know, I get involved in a lot of these type projects where condemnation may come into play. And if we have this permit going in to infinity, it could actually end up being a costly venture, costly buyout for the city of Gretna or the state or whoever's jurisdiction is ended up paying for this road and that intersection at that time. So I think the idea of having some kind of a term on that, recognizing that there's a very good possibility that that intersection could go into that area, to have a limit on that, so we, or whoever it is that is buying right away for that road, if it ends up being there, doesn't end up having to pay a premium.
Jason, has NDOR made any comment on the interchange itself and future plans there?
So, you said NDOR?
Yeah.
We didn't get any comments from NDO. They come on DOT now, but yeah, I don't think we did not receive comments from them.
Okay. Any other comments?
I just want to, so the only reason you would think we'd stay away is to keep the cost down for the city of Gretna?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there could certainly be additional cost to acquiring real estate if that ends up being in the path of where the intersection is going to go, over and above with the cost of just the underlying land. Now you're displacing a business, and so that's another issue too. And it's it's just taking on a whole different characteristic. And I know what you're saying about considerable investment, but I'm not been there. I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of these places around Sarpy County. I sometimes question how much of an investment there really is there, besides some gravel surfacing, and I don't think there's a extensive investment. But if there was, then they would have to get paid for that if they take it. But as far as taking the business also, just to avoid that problem down the road, I think it's probably wise to have some kind of a limit, knowing that there is a possibility that that area could be affected.
Question for Jason. I think the practice has been more to sunset these or to have a time limit than not, and the more intensive uses like this could be. I'm trying to think back to all the ones we've had, but I recall a term on at least some of them.
We don't have very many term limits on these. I can recall one that is no longer in our jurisdiction. I can't recall any others, although my history is shorter than previous directors, previous planners. But I do not recall any others that had a certain time limit. Are you thinking of any specific?
I thought we had hit this issue at least once before, but I may be mistaken.
Yeah, I know they had been, it has been a topic of conversation, at least in our office, whether we do term limits to, the the practice of keeping up with those times is difficult if we were to do them on all of them. So I don't believe we have done that on any of the ones that I've worked on for home occupations or special use permits.
Home occupations can kind of come and go with the owner, but when you're talking about investing in any sort of improvements like this, I was wondering if you had assigned a term to something like that,
Yeah,
so they could
and I did.
realize the return on their investment.
Yeah, there is a good distinction there. You're correct. But I did use home occupations, but I don't recall any other special use permit where we had a time limit, other than the one that I mentioned previously that is no longer in our jurisdiction, is a haunted house.
Thank you.
That's the only one I remember.
Guess I'll make a motion. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the special use permit for James Mowinkle to be located at Lot 1, Millwinkle's Addition, to allow vacation and travel trailer sales and rental use as described in their business plan and application, subject to a maximum of 20 recreational vehicles or trailers on site at any given time. And I will specifically add that the requirement or the recommendation for the 10-year time frame be eliminated from the special use permit.
I second.
So I assume that, can we have this discussion? This would go to the board then if it moves forward, and they can determine whether or not to
Read my mind.
implement that 10-year period. It's not as though
They would have the
Our
opportunity.
recommendation board.
we're recommending, so that variable would be up to the commission or the board to decide.
The city of Gretna comments will still be included, and
Got it.
they'll have
Thank
that
you.
information as well.
You ready to vote?
Yep.
Please vote. We've got 6 votes for, 1 against, GIF, motion carried.
Okay. Item number 2, public hearing and recommendation for staff is requesting the Section 35 text amendments be tabled. Text amendments to the Sarpy County zoning regulations, Section 34, supplementary regulations, and Section 35, wireless tower regulations. The applicant is Sarpy County Planning and Building Department.
Okay. Staff is requesting, as mentioned, to table Section 35 wireless towers amendments for additional review on that. Staff is also requesting an amendment to Section 34 supplementary regulations, which removes the ag farming zoning district from the maximum 30% of the total area of the home and detached accessory buildings that can be used by home occupations. And just as a note, this is related to the previous Planning Commission agenda item where we had a home occupation in the ag district. So it's related to that from that staff report. But staff has submitted the proposed text amendments for your discussion and consideration. Staff is recommending approval of the changes to Sarpy County zoning regulations, section 34 supplementary regulations, as shown in attachment A, which is a redlined copy of the Sarpy County zoning regulations, section 34. Staff believes the text amendments as outlined above and shown in detail in attachment A are consistent with the overall zoning regulations of Sarpy County. Let me know if you have any questions about that.
I'll open the floor to the commission.
I'm confused. Are we tabling or not? We're only tabling 35, which wasn't even in the agenda.
Yeah, it is on the agenda.
it's
on the
It's the
agenda.
34 and
second one.
35.
The red text.
It's the second one. There's
Right,
section
but-
34 and section 35.
My version I'm looking at right here only has 34. It doesn't say anything about 35, other than the staff is requesting the section 35 text amendments be tabled. Were there two sections we were going to amend and we're pulling one section out, but it's not in the report? I guess I'm
I have both
looking
of
at you
them.
for,
I
can we
have
do
both of them.
this?
I
I'm
don't
not
know
sure
what you're
how you
talking
have
about
what
there.
you have that would be different. Mine says under number 2 it says text amendments to section 34 and section 35. So I'm not sure if you have an earlier version.
There is no 35 in, there's no text amendments shown for 35. The only ones we were
Correct.
given
When you
was
click-
34.
When you click on like the recommendation report.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
correct,
okay.
because
'Cause we're
they're,
Yeah, so they
recommending them
pulled
to-
that
they're being
off.
withdrawn, tabled, however you want it. We never did have them. They weren't ready.
So we're not tabling the agenda item.
Well, the
Right.
agenda was published with section 35 on it,
And we're
but the
saying,
recommendation report was not completed. So you can either table it to a further meeting and we can attach the recommendation report, or you can table indefinitely and we can republish the whole thing for just section 35. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
I guess I've never tabled half an agenda item. That's where I'm confused.
Well, I think you would have to do 2 votes anyways for 34 and 35. So you can just take a vote on section 34 and table the remainder of the agenda item to a further meeting.
yeah, we can vote on section 34. It's a separate section, not related to section 35. They're not related.
So you're
They just
recommending
combine it
two
into one
votes,
agenda
34,
item.
35.
Yeah.
But we would never have taken 2 votes. We would have had 1 vote on the whole agenda item with comments in our recommended motion.
Yeah, text amendment is for the entire zoning regulation, in my view. So I agree with Doug here. I believe that we wouldn't have had 2 motions for 2.
So would you rather table the entire agenda item and just do 34 at when
No,
we do
I guess what I'm saying
35?
is, I think it's just a comment that we pulled, maybe tabled is the wrong word potentially, but we're pulling section 35 from the edits that were made to the zoning regulations.
And-
Correct.
And maybe we're
That's correct.
specific in our motion to
So it
say
doesn't necessarily
the,
have to be a motion, it's just, we're gonna make the motion without section 35.
Right, we're only voting on section 34.
So I got a question. So is 34 just holding up construction of some sort if we don't approve it now, and then 35 can be done later? Is that what we're looking at? So there's some
Section
fencing.
35 is completely unrelated. It's about wireless towers and a
Yeah.
case that we had, an application that we had a case on. And then in section 34, those are related directly to, I say they were the
they're not
result
related.
of discussion had because of the last agenda item in the last.
My question is 34, it's not going to happen unless 35 happens, or is it 34? Yeah, so.
They're completely
All right, I get it.
separate.
they're exclusive.
That makes
To
sense.
answer your question, yep, sorry.
So we can completely withdraw section 35 and we'll re-advertise it.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a motion to approve the changes to section 34 without any mention of 35, or you can specifically say section 35 will be addressed at a later meeting. And
you
then we
want
can
a
just, when
motion?
we get to that point, we can just republish for 35 and have that on the agenda, and then there's no confusion.
Right.
Do you want a motion to table 35 until the next meeting so you don't have to republish it, followed by a motion to approve section 34.
Do you guys even know when those are going to be ready?
We don't know when they'll be
Okay.
back,
We don't know
so
when
we're
they'll be-
fine with
yeah.
republishing.
Yeah,
Just
you can
trying
just
to save
table
you
that
the-
one
That's
indefinitely.
kind of where we were
Yeah.
going anyway with it.
Okay, so I'll start with asking for a motion on,
Well, did we do the public
We
hearing on
gotta-
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to, yeah. So let's do the public
I
hearing
threw the
first.
grenade too soon.
Yeah.
so which public hearing now do we want?
So just open the public
Only
hearing
section
for agenda item 2 related to section 34. And then close it. And then you can entertain your motion and have discussion. And then we can move on to the next one.
At this stage, I will open the floor to any questions or comments from the public with regards to item 34. I will now close the public hearing for item 34 and will entertain a motion on item 34.
Okay, I will move to recommend approval of the proposed text amendments to Sarpy County zoning regulations, section 34, supplemental regulations as shown in attachment A and included with the agenda.
Second.
Should I add mine? Based on the belief, finding that the text amendments as outlined above and shown in detail in attachment A are consistent with the overall zoning regulations of Sarpy County. Sorry, I forgot that.
I will second that as well.
Okay, there we go.
Sorry about that.
Seven yeas, motion carries.
So just for my own edification here, are we tabling 35 then completely? We don't need a motion on that?
We'll
You want a motion?
draw it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's just withdrawn. If we don't take any action on it, then we'll just republish
You'll
it for a future
withdraw it.
meeting.
Okay, so I will move on to,
And I think we're going to have the same issue with the next one, right? Section 3 being withdrawn,
Yeah.
but I'll let you talk about that.
okay. Item number 3 is a public hearing and recommendation, text amendments to the Sarpy County subdivision regulations, section 3, definitions, section 8, final plat and required supplementary data, section 9, plat of record vacation and lot line adjustments, and section 17, guideline procedures for public improvements. Applicant is Sarpy County Planning Building Department.
Yeah, and as mentioned, section 3, edit for a definition was just completely removed. It was not necessary, and I didn't catch it in time on the staff report, and it was already on the agenda, so that's why we had to kind of pull that one off of there. Basically, there's two things kind of happening here. The driver for the edits for the surveyor, the land surveyor, changes, and really to summarize what the changes for that, for the term land surveyor is, we're changing it from land surveyor to a land surveyor certified with the Nebraska Board of Examiners, land surveyors. And so that kind of holds them to that standard for the Nebraska Board of Examiners for land surveyors. The reason the driver, as I mentioned, was the Sarpy County Public Works notified our office about changes to the minimum standards for plats in the Nebraska Administrative Code. The purpose of these changes were to improve surveys by limiting the ability of surveyors to use field I worded that incorrectly. So it limits their ability to not use anything but just field confirmation of monuments. So they have to go out to the field and locate the monuments or create a new monument for the survey, except in special circumstances, basically. And details of those changes in the administrative code, Nebraska Administrative Code, are on the annual report for the Nebraska Board of Surveyors. And additionally, the second type of change is changing the term we used to use, change of zone, to rezoning. So we're just kind of catching up with that, is all that is. So staff is recommending approval of the changes to the Sarpy County subdivision regulations, Section 8, final plat and required supplementary data, Section 9, plat of record vacation and administrative replats, and Section 17, guideline for procedures for public improvements. Staff believes the text amendments are consistent with the overall zoning and subdivision regulations of Sarpy County. And that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know.
I will open the meeting for any comments from the public. I will close the meeting. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Guess it's my night. 8.1, preliminary plat. You've crossed off prepared by a registered engineer. So now the preliminary plat is only signed by a surveyor who is not really in their purview to do street improvements, water distribution stuff, costing,
Correct.
profile. So I think we need to put prepared by a registered engineer back in there.
Let me get to that piece here and then I'll respond. So
Yeah, that one.
after approval of the preliminary plat by the county board, the subdivider shall prepare and submit to the planning commission a final plat. And the distinction here is that prepared by a registered engineer and surveyor, we're not, the certification is what matters in this line. And the certification is by a registered land surveyor, not by an engineer. And so we just removed prepared by a registered engineer altogether because that's not what is trying to be dictated there. It's really the land surveyor trying to be as part of that.
So this is the final plat only. Where did I see something about I thought the preliminary plat had something similar in it. Maybe not, maybe I missed it.
There is in section 17, it again mentioned here, let me go to it so I can actually talk about it. It talks about public improvements, which is, streets built on right of way, that sort of thing, those exhibits. And so here, we still have registered engineer and or land surveyor registered by the Nebraska State Board of Examiners. So we still have the requirement for a registered engineer on those documents, those supporting documents, like that we use in the subdivision agreements and that sort of thing.
They wouldn't be able to get through permitting anyway, right?
Well, I'm sorry.
They wouldn't be able to get through permitting without the registered engineer stamp anyway, right?
Yeah, there's no requirement for a registered engineer on a plat. Yeah, and so that's what that first line in section 8 that was edited there was referring to. So,
Jason, when I read these, I thought it was kind of odd because I'm an engineer and I can't call myself an engineer unless I'm registered by the state of Nebraska. So there's really no need for Sarpy County to tell people that. And I'm not a registered surveyor, but it strikes me that there's probably the exact same situation where if you say that something has to be signed and sealed by a surveyor, I don't think you need to worry about defining it because the state requires it in order for you to call yourself a surveyor. And I believe the same thing exists for an appraiser. I believe the same thing exists for a landscape architect or a planner. So I just thought it was odd that we were just focusing narrowly on surveyor. Is there any reason why we ignored registration of all these other professionals that are required to get the work done?
Can I ask you a question about your, because I truly don't know, registered engineer, is that with the state of Nebraska Board of Engineers?
Yes.
Okay.
Engineers and architects.
Engineers and architects. I can't speak to that, to be honest with you, but it was a request from Sarpy County Public Works to incorporate the new changes for registered land surveyors in there. So that's where this is coming from. And
Is there a problem that the county's running into because of this issue?
we have had some things come across, but and to be able to speak towards whether this will solve that or not, I can't. And it was an afterthought for me to get the surveyor here tonight. But I did talk to him in preparation. He wasn't able to make it. So I gave him late notice to get here, basically.
Yeah.
And so I wish I would have gotten that ahead of time, but
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. It just seems like it's incomplete. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't understand why we would be so focused on surveyors, and there's so many other licensed professionals involved in the process that we're not addressing.
For my understanding and preparing this, it was by stating that it's Nebraska State Board, a specific license. And I understand where you're going to go with that. You've already made that argument, and I totally get that. But it was specifically this, and then that can point toward a regulation for the Nebraska Board of Examiners for land surveying, and therefore holding them to that standard.
No, I get it. Like I said, I don't see anything wrong with it. It just seems like an incomplete.
Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking if there's anything I can add to that, but I think that's the point. So.
Any other questions or comments? I will entertain a motion on this item.
I will move to recommend approval of the proposed text amendments for changes to the Sarpy County subdivision regulations, Section 8, final plat and required supplementary data, Section 9, plat of record vacation and administrative replats, and Section 17, guideline procedures for public improvements as shown on attachment A, which is the red line copy of the SCSR sections 8, 9, and 17. I make this recommendation as the proposed amendments are consistent with the overall zoning and subdivision regulations of Sarpy County.
I'll second.
Six votes for, one vote against, that's Huddleston. Motion carries.
Item number 4, public hearing and recommendations. Staff is requesting that this item be tabled. Amendments to Sarpy County's comprehensive plan to revise Figure 19 residential development decision matrix. The applicant is Sarpy County Planning and Building Department.
This is another case where we just need to do a little more review, and we're not really pressured to get it done. We just have a few more people to get it through, and so we'd like to table that. I do believe a motion's needed for that one.
Date specific or?
Just withdraw it.
Yeah, it's just being withdrawn. We just have.
Draw it
you're
and
gonna republish?
re-advertise when it's ready.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So if it's withdrawn, I don't think we need a motion, do we?
I would make a motion to table indefinitely, and then we'll have to go through this process anyways.
Yeah, because it's a separate regulation, or it's a comprehensive plan, so it's
Yeah,
not
I would just to make it
included.
clean, move to table indefinitely, and then we'll bring it back when it's ready.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to table this agenda item definitely.
Doug, I need to open it to the floor.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, because we're making a motion. Sorry.
I don't know if you do.
I don't think you need a public hearing if we're tabling it. You need a public
Okay.
hearing when we actually hear the merits of the case or
Okay,
the
good.
amendment.
That's all good by me. Please go ahead, Doug.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this agenda item definitely.
I'll second it.
I don't know, I just followed her lead.
Who seconded the motion?
Oh, indefinitely?
Indefinitely.
I'm sorry.
We kind of want to bring it back.
Oh, I thought that, never mind.
I've got Doug making the motion, and who second?
GIF.
Okay, thank you. Seven votes for, motion carried.
That is the end of our public section of the meeting tonight. Do we have any commissioner reports? Do we have anything from the planning department?
I have one thing. We did receive a notice of resignation from Bill I. Gardner. So he'll be on as planning commissioner until we find his replacement. But we thank Bill for his service, and I know he's been here for a few years, so we appreciate that very much.
Okay,
But
thank
that
you.
is all I have.
We're scheduled for October 17th.
That would be the next schedule. We don't have any applications at this point.
Right.
So
Okay.
don't believe we'll have anything for October at this point.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I will declare this meeting adjourned.